What's going on, guys? Anime Yokage back at it again. And first off, before we get into the video or the chapter spoilers, I want to thank you guys so much for all the new subscribers, all the new views, comments, interactions. It is absolutely incredible, and it makes me feel loved as a YouTuber. You guys really should know how to make a guy feel special. But with all that out of the way, let's get into it. Today, we're going to be covering chapter 249 of Jujutsu Kaisen. That's like the fourth time I had to take that. For some reason, Jujutsu Kaisen kept tongue twisting me. You guys are making me nervous. But we start off this chapter, we actually flash back to when Yuta killed Kenjaku. We get a visual of Yuta standing over Kenjaku's smirking head and also his lifeless body. So as we all think that he's dead, of course this is anime, so cutting off someone's head isn't nearly enough. And of course, killing somebody like Kenjaku can't come without repercussions. As soon as he cuts off the head and a few moments go by, tons of cursed spirits start pouring out to attack Yuta. Like someone popping the top off some champagne, they're about to get this party started. We see a plethora of cursed spirits rushing at Yuta, and I'm pretty sure we haven't seen any of these in battle yet. I don't think Kenjaku's ever pulled any of these out specifically, but it seems like every and any curse that he was holding on to is just coming for Yuta's head. And as Yuta is cut off guard, rightfully so, he actually manages to cut a few of them with his sword, but he has Rika jump in to handle the rest. And myself, and just like any JJK fan, I would assume we all love some Rika action.
What's wrong with you?
You know what I mean. And with this development, we actually see that Kenjaku's head is flying in the air. Just his head, no body, no nothing. But this floating head of Kenjaku actually asked Kagone, which if you remember is kind of like the game warden or the host, like the Metapod looking flying thing, actually asked Kagone to make a new rule that Megumi Fushiguro has the right to merge Tengen with the Japanese populace. And really, it's cutting me off guard because I didn't know that that was kind of an ability that could be transferred. I didn't know it was a rule or anything. In that case, if it's his curse technique that he's borrowing and he's using, does that mean that anyone can make a rule to pass off their curse technique or there any kind of amplification of their own to somebody else? Because if that's so, that's heavily underutilized. But back to the story. Kenjaku goes on to tell Yuta that he's already made up a backup plan and he's already completed the ritual of inheritance with Sukuna. Which I don't know if this is something that Sukuna actually agreed to or wanted to be a part of. It seems like this entire plan that Sukuna was just letting Kenjaku do his thing as long as it didn't interfere with what Sukuna wanted. I can't imagine this being an honor or anything bestowed upon him that he would want, desire, or even care for. But then Kenjaku grows this amalgamation of bones and flesh and cursed spirits, I guess. But it forms the embryo of Tengen. It makes him into a tiny little embryo and fires him off. It looks like a ki blast, or it looks like Vegeta taking off after the Dragon Balls on Namek. But as we saw in the last chapter, Sukuna ate something, and it was Tengen. But now that Kenjaku has sent Sukuna some DoorDash, there's only one thing left to do. Finally kill Kenjaku, which Yuta takes no hesitation in doing and stabs him straight through the forehead with his sword. The panel looks super cool too. As he has the sword pierced through his forehead, he's actually just keeps staring down right at Yuta. And as Kenjaku stares down Yuta, he has some final words. He says, "I'm glad the last person I played with was him," talking about Takaba, or Takaba. All these names can be pronounced many different ways coming from someone who doesn't speak Japanese. He continues on saying, "I can't say I got 1,000 years worth of fun out of him, but now it's your turn." And I don't know who he's talking to. He's having some last moment final death hallucinations, but I don't know who he's saying it's his turn. I'm guessing he's talking about Sukuna, but this is kind of vague and up in the air. I feel like it would have been said who he's talking about and not left up to question had it been that obvious. And that's it for the flashback. We head right back into where we left off. We go straight into an inner monologue of what Yuta is thinking, and he's saying that he's starting to see that Sukuna's RCT is beginning to return to normal, and it's probably only a matter of time before he regains his ability to do domain expansion. And I can tell you right now that 95% of the people on this playing field right now cannot take Malevolent Shrine. Actually, I don't even think that we've seen Malevolent Shrine whenever Sukuna has his original body back. I don't know if that'd make a difference, but for some reason I want to believe that it would. So quick recap, Sukuna's getting his RCT back. He's probably not far away from getting domain expansion. And Yuta says, even Higuruma died.
No!
Sorry.
And Yuta, being the original MC that would never be, blames himself for this. He says that if they didn't send him off to kill Kenjaku, then potentially this could be avoided, this could have been pushed off, he could have saved some people. He starts to question, wouldn't it have been for the best if he would have stayed with the Executioner Sword's plan? I guess that's what they were calling it. And he said if he were here, maybe it would have succeeded. Honestly, I can't see how that would have been the case. Whether you had another person there of Yuta's caliber with Yuta and Rika fighting off, I don't think that that would take down Sukuna's perception. It would keep him busy, but this entire time that Sukuna's been fighting, he hasn't been fighting all out or anything. Really, the thing's been working against the good guys is that his perception is too high. His perception's too high, his battle IQ's too high. The guy's just on a different playing field. And yes, Yuta is incredibly powerful, especially with Rika in tow, but I really don't think this would have turned the tides. And just like we were all thinking before, why couldn't Maki have gone and killed Kenjaku? She has no cursed energy, he wouldn't have been able to sense her, but given the circumstances of what are going on and what's on the line, I really do think it was the best idea to send Yuta. Because I think we can all agree, having Kenjaku on the playing field as a wild card that could do anything at any time, you simply can't have it, especially when the stakes are this high. If I were playing a video game and I had like all these generals or players that I could send out to go attack certain factions or other generals or other players like that, I would have 100% sent my strongest guy to take care of that first and take it off the playing field, then come rejoin us. It's happening here. And that's the realization that Yuta comes to himself. He says that if anyone else was there and all those cursed spirits got loose and would have turned into something like Shibuya all over again, that Rika's power would have been absolutely necessary. Because it kind of got off-screened, but Rika absolutely decimated all those cursed spirits, I'm guessing. And could the other sorcerers have handled that? Probably. But why even take a chance of anything being able to slip through the cracks? They made the right call. They sent the right dude. Settled. Because, again, I think we're all forgetting, the culling games are still going on, and there's a lot of civilians still locked within this city. They haven't been able to leave. No help has been able to come in for them. Saving these citizens is still a major priority of the Jujutsu sorcerers. Yuta swings his sword, but again, just like every other time, Sukuna catches it with ease. Getting old. And you might be like me in the beginning of reading this panel, that how could Sukuna just catch such a powerful weapon imbued with so much cursed energy from Yuta? Well, he's not actually touching the blade. We actually see that when he catches the blade, inside of his hand, he is releasing dismantle like crazy. And it's kind of turning into like a chainsaw effect of holding the blade in between a circular chainsaw that's keeping it from touching him, but keeping it in place. It's actually really smart and cool. But Yuta, thinking quickly, lets go of the katana and punches him right in the stomach mouth. The mouth stomach. The mouth and his abdomen. I don't know what we're calling it. If you've heard a weird or gross name for this particular thing, put it down in the comments below. We'll start using it. Because I don't know what to call it. Now this strike makes Sukuna's stomach mouth thing wince, like, ugh, it must have actually kind of hurt him. And immediately once he does that, he releases the sword and Yuta grabs the sword and continues to try and strike. Now Yuta misses the strike, but we can actually see in this panel that there is like a double fight going on, and Rika and Yuta are actually double teaming against Sukuna. But Sukuna having 4 arms, he's pretty much the only person who's equipped to handle this. He's punching Rika, he's blocking shots, he's throwing away AC units that Rika's throwing at him, he's blocking punches and swords from Yuta. And Sukuna is not protected by plot armor. This is all battle IQ and 1,000-year of experience. We don't want to admit it, but he's that good. So Yuta and Rika continue their dual attacks on Sukuna, and in the middle of this, Yuta goes back to doubting himself. He says this all could have been avoided if he just would have came here. But it's revealed that he got kind of selfish and he wanted to kill Kenjaku with his own hands. Which I know that everybody in the story doesn't like Kenjaku and everybody's got a bone to pick with him. But it's kind of weird that Yuta would single himself out as, I need to kill him. I don't know where the major animosity, I know from movie Zero. Yeah, movie Zero, that he fought against Geto, but that was not Kenjaku. And if anybody is well aware of this, it was probably Yuta. If you guys remember what Kenjaku personally did to Yuta, go ahead and drop it below because I'm drawing a blank. The manga panel is super cool though. It looks super high paced. It looks super powerful. And I cannot wait until this gets animated 10 years from now. I'm kidding, maybe like 4 or 5. Regardless, this action can't come soon enough. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for a long time. Yuta grabs a hold of his ring. I guess that's a condition for it. And he does his domain expansion.
I'm gonna come. Oh.
Which none of us, including Sukuna, have ever seen. And it shows, because your boy looks slightly scared. And when I say slightly scared, slightly. Once you've beaten Gojo, it's kind of hard to get scared of anything else that would be thrown at you. But back to the domain expansion. The name of this domain expansion is True and Mutual Love. Which is why, I guess that's why he grabs his ring, because that's supposed to represent his bond with Rika, which is a major pinnacle of his curse technique. The domain looks awesome though.
What is this place?
This is a vibe!
It's like this ominous kind of void world that has a whole bunch of like knots tied through it, along like the skyline of the domain expansion. And it has 2 big giant broken crosses that Yuta and Sukuna are both standing on, and scattered all around them, all over the ground, are tons and tons and tons of different katanas. It kind of reminds me of Bleach, if you remember whenever Ichigo was actually trying to unlock his Bankai for the first time, and he had to find the right sword amongst all those swords scattered in the room. It seriously looks like a Bankai. But here's the kicker with this domain expansion. I'm pretty sure this goes with everybody's domain expansion, but your cursed energy is kind of limitless within it. That was not a Gojo reference. And with him having this limitless cursed energy all around him, each sword that's in the ground represents one of the cursed techniques that he's copied. And Sukuna notes that he knows that his cursed technique is copied. Of course, Sukuna knew before we did. He always does. And Sukuna actually might be a little bit worried. We see him immediately perform Hollow Wicker Basket, which is you put your hands like this, and then it actually is kind of like a really old version of Simple Domain. If you could think of Simple Domain being like a smartphone to where it can do a whole bunch of different things and has a whole bunch of versatility, Hollow Wicker Basket is a landline. All it does is make sure that there's no sure hit effect, which is like a crappier version of Falling Blossom Emotion, which Falling Blossom Emotion is actually like a cloak of cursed energy, and all that cursed energy will immediately counterattack anything that enters its field. But Hollow Wicker Basket does not defend against everything within the domain. It only defends against the sure hit effect. So basically he just disables Yuta's aimbot and he has to do it manually, which we've all seen in here that Yuta is very good at and proficient. So immediately he attacks Sukuna and his defenses with Thin Icebreaker, which is a technique that he stole from Uro earlier in the culling game. With seeing this badass domain expansion for the first time, Yuta affirms himself and us that he will end this. Within the domain, he's not even coming out again. And we see that Thin Icebreaker actually had an effect on Sukuna. His eye looks like it's bloodied up or it's actually damaged, but this is whenever Sukuna starts to realize the plan that the sorcerers have. And I didn't know that Megumi was so familiar with Yuta's curse technique, but apparently that's how Sukuna knew what his curse technique was. He knows that he has curse possession and copy, all from Megumi's mind. You know, anybody that becomes his vessel, he gets all their memories and everything like that. This is actually an amazing plan that they've concocted, because Yuta's plan is to keep the sure hit effect in his back pocket by waiting until Sukuna lets down the Hollow Wicker Basket, because the minute that he lets go of the Hollow Wicker Basket, Yuta plans on using probably Jacob's Ladder, which we know that he got from Angel before, and that absolutely cooked Sukuna before. He literally looked cooked. We all know that with Angel's curse technique, Jacob's Ladder, it actually purges all the evil and burns it out of a person. which would burn all the evil, being Sukuna, out of Megumi's body. Sukuna actually had to resort to trickery before to stop Angel from using this attack on him. So, with that threat looming in the background, Sukuna's gonna have to keep Hollow Wicker Basket activated. And to keep Hollow Wicker Basket activated, he's going to have to use 2 of his arms and his mouth stomach thing that I still don't know what to call it. Yuta is free to attack Sukuna with any one of his other copied attacks an unlimited amount of times. Of course, only while he's in the domain. So Sukuna's only option to get out of this domain alive is probably to get his domain back, which, as we saw with the domain battle between Gojo and Sukuna, Malevolent Shrine can come down on top of it and break the domain that he's in. He still has 2 free arms to fight, but having to fight off something as heavy as unlimited copied curse techniques is probably something that he would have needed all 4 arms for, because he's going to have to keep Hollow Wicker Basket activated also while using RCT to heal himself from all the attacks. And that's where we find the linchpin within this plan. Yuji actually got pulled into the domain as well. And remember whenever Yuji punched Sukuna when they first got there and it shook Sukuna and you could see it on his face, he didn't know what was happening? That's where we move forward on this. Apparently whenever Yuji hit Sukuna before, we all thought he was attacking the soul. And we were right. It seems that Yuji's new technique is to attack the soul directly and rip it away and into himself. Or maybe he can just attack the soul directly and he can just choose to absorb the soul or just destroy it completely. Either way, super broken ability, because most of the other sorcerers don't even know what the shape of their soul and don't even know how to defend against something like that. It's like in a video game, if someone has a shield and a health bar, bypassing the shield bar and going straight for the health, there's no defense that they know of that they can implement. And for now, Sukuna falls into that boat as well. So as Yuta combats him from the front, Yuji's gonna be hitting him from the back.
What did he say?
I don't think there's any way to say that right. But Sukuna actually seems kind of impressed and amused with the plan that they cooked up. He mockingly applauds Yuji and says, "Good for you, you finally have a role in this fight." Which I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure from my past, whenever I see anybody targeting somebody and constantly trying to belittle them, it's usually because they're afraid of that person or insecure. And Sukuna has never let up on Yuji. So I'm pretty sure that Yuji's potential has always been known by Sukuna. So he digs a little bit here and there to try and belittle him and bring him down, or just make him act emotionally and not be thinking of the fight properly, which would give Sukuna an opening to attack Yuji and take him off the map. Sukuna seems to respect everybody else that's been in this battle, almost, besides Yuji. That just tells me that he's the most afraid of Yuji. And with this revelation, rightfully so. The editor goes on to say, the new and old main characters strike together. And that will do it for chapter 249 of Jujutsu Kaisen. This chapter opened up so many new doors, it answered so many questions that we've all been wondering as a community, and I could not be more excited. I know that's going to take a while for this to get animated, but oh, we're eating good right now. But most importantly, and why I make these videos, what did you guys think? Go ahead and tell me in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, what you're excited for. Tell me everything. I love getting to interact with you guys as much as humanly possible on here. So again, like I said in the beginning of this video, I am so incredibly thankful for all the new subscribers, all the new views, and all the attention towards this channel. I'm truly blessed to be able to get it, and I hope that I can keep you guys entertained in the future. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm Anime Yokage. See you next time.